This video discusses recent wartime experiences that may cause distress to some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
G'day and welcome to Australian Veteran News. My name's Eamon and tonight I've got the great pleasure of being joined by Jeb Summers. Jeb is a former rifleman from the 5th Battalion, Royal Australian Regiment, and currently runs the Veterans Save Our Services Australia. Jeb Summers, welcome to Australian Veteran News.
Thanks, Eamon. Nice to be on here having a chat.
Good to finally meet you, Jeb. And righto. So before we start, I just want to say, so Jeb and I are going to talk about some fairly serious issues tonight, including some stuff about Jeb's time in Afghanistan. Be aware this may be triggering for some people, and if you are struggling with your own mental health, and if you are a bit worried about it, I mean, a bit of viewer discretion is advised on this. So Jeb, let's go. Tell us about yourself.
Okay, so we'll start off with a bit of my service details. So X5 area, served from 2006 through to 2011. Did East Timor in 08, 09, and did Afghanistan in 2010, 2011.
So one of the things we really want to talk about tonight, Jeb, is that mental health stuff. Before we go into the really serious stuff, one of the things I do want to talk about, what for you when you joined, how old were you when you first joined?
I was 19 when I first joined.
So for a 19-year-old coming into the organisation, what was it like? What was it like when you first marched into Singo and then got up to Darwin?
Oh, let's not beat around the bush. It was scary as shit. Scary as shit in Kapuka. Mind my language. Hopefully we don't have to edit that out. But yeah, definitely intimidating. I guess for a lot of 19-year-olds, you're not used to having someone in your face yelling around. So it's a bit of a shock to the system. So yeah, then went through Singleton, ended up at Darwin.
Tell us about your time in Afghanistan.
Yeah, sure. So the lead up to Afghanistan, like every other dig, trying to get on the trip, any cause come up, I put my hand up for. So when I went over there, I was CFA qualified, so combat first aider.
Yep.
I was support. I was also I was support in signals platoon. I had my Bushmaster license as well.
Right.
So, and obviously I was an infantryman as well. So look, going over to Afghanistan, I performed all 4 of those roles.
Yeah.
Even though I was a company SIG at the time, each one of those roles and skills I picked up, I end up using during the tour.
Okay. And overall, I mean, so 9 months in country, you've gotten back at the end of 2010?
No. It would have been the start of 2011.
Right. And what was that like? That return to Australia?
Oh, look, I think it might be easier just to explain the Afghanistan trip, and then we can explain sort of what it was like coming back. Look, it was definitely a relief coming back. When you're out of country for 9 months, it doesn't matter whether you're peacekeeping or over in Afghanistan or warlike. Every time you come back to Australia, after 9 months being away from home, you feel like kissing the ground.
Yeah.
It's just so good to be home.
Yeah.
You'd know the feeling, Eamon.
Well, when you were in Afghanistan, I was in Iraq. So I still remember that. That was my first deployment to Iraq in 2010. I remember landing at Brisbane Airport, middle of the night, in uniform, with our slouch hats, we're covered in dust. And I just remember that feeling of relief, that feeling of just absolute joy. It was bizarre. It was a bizarre experience to get home because I was you talked about acclimatization to Darwin. I was so acclimatized to Iraq at the time. I was so acclimatized to this completely foreign deployment environment. And whilst I was in Iraq, you guys in Afghanistan were doing some really, really hard yards. And that's something I really want to talk to you about because my understanding, and I could be wrong on this, but my understanding is 2010, 2011, in terms of casualties, I can't think of a time where Australia has had more casualties in the last 20 years. Your IED strikes, your gunshot wounds, all that sort of stuff, the stuff that you would have been exposed to as a PMV driver, as a CFA, it would have been immense. And I'd really, if you're comfortable with it, I'd love for you to talk to us a bit about that and whatever you're comfortable with, break it down for us.
Yeah, sure. Well, like discussed with you previously off air, like I'm more than happy to delve into these areas that people don't normally delve into. And I guess the reason why I'm happy to do so, it's taken me a long time to get where I am now. So now I'm getting more comfortable about speaking about the issues, what caused my mental health.
Right.
It's taken years for me to get this stage. Some of the issues that not only for myself, for everyone else that has served as well. I think one of the issues that everyone faces is everyone always puts themselves in that position where, and I did for years, and this is why it took me ages and ages to recognise my mental health systems. And look, yeah, without going into a spiel of its own, I'd say a lot of people look at other people and go, hey, that bloke's done more than me. I don't deserve to have this mental health, He's seen more than me. He's done this, or she's done this, or, there's a lot of that. And you just end up passing your own mental health off because you believe someone's seen more or done more than you. Obviously, now I've done the mental first aid course myself. It's taught me a lot of things. I suppose the biggest thing it's taught me is everyone has a different mental health well-being levels. So some people will get affected by other things and other people will get affected by other things. There could be people, there are people that aren't affected by these issues at all, that have seen some terrible incidents and able to carry on. But you've also got people, that maybe after 5-10 years, boom, it hits you. Yeah. And it's just you're not ready, you're not prepared. But we can roll into that after talking about the Afghanistan incidents and after I talk about post-life army, and we'll go really deep with the mental health stuff.
No, I think what you've said there, mate, it's a great example. It's a great point. My favourite analogy for it is the cup. Everyone has a different size cup. There's blokes out there. There's men and women. I say blokes in the gender neutral sense of the word, but there's men and women out there who've got, giant pint glasses and their cup can just keep getting filled. There's other people out there who have a shot glass, and before they know it, it's overflowing, and they need some help. And experiences may vary. A fantastic Facebook page, and also a really good analogy for all this army stuff. Experiences may vary. What affects you might not affect the man or woman standing next to you. What really deeply, badly affects them might be absolutely nothing for you. So having said all that, can you tell us, in Afghanistan, what was the first moment that you thought, I'll ask you, and if you don't want to answer, you don't have to, but when was the first time you felt genuinely scared? When was the first time you thought, this is serious, this is real?
Well, look, I'll be honest with you, Eamon. Over there, I didn't feel scared at all. I don't think many of us did. Yeah. I don't think people fathomed the things that were happening around us. And for me personally, while I was over there, I felt like I was 10 foot high and bulletproof. I think we all did.
Yeah.
But I guess, coming back home, when I come back home, it hit me years down the track. But, look, let's start to dive into some of the incidents that happened to me over there. Again, it is hard to talk about because, again, going back to what I previously said, everyone, including myself, always thinks there's someone out there that has done more and seen more. And it's really hard to break out of that cycle and not have that thought behind you when you're talking about intimate moments. But look, hopefully we'll roll through this because it's something that we need to talk about. And the more we talk about it, more people hopefully go and get help. Probably the first incident was we had a mass casualty incident, and yeah, so basically we were sitting around our rooms and a bit of downtime, and we heard a hell of an explosion. When no one really knew what it was, and next minute, you know, the sirens are ringing. We're all going out to help, and there's just casualties coming in left, right, and centre in the gates. So we had to triage. For anyone who doesn't know what triage is, it's where you assess the person and deem if he's basically going to die, you've got to move on to the next person.
So this was you as a CFA, you're at the forefront of this.
Look, I would say the medic on site was the one that would triage, but look, he's also seeing some serious patients in the tent where he's basically doing surgeries. So I would say some of that responsibility fell back onto the CFA members. So obviously, yep, got to the scene, and yeah, look, it was ugly. It was ugly. There was there was a lot of people coming in with a lot of injuries. So what had happened was a teenage, I think it was a teenage boy, had went and hugged a local leader in the area, and boom, had a suicide vest on. Yeah. And just took everyone out as well with him. So basically, look, happened really fast. Everyone was coming in. I remember in particular, you know, we were running out of stretchers. I'll never forget this moment where running out of stretchers, everyone's screaming out for more stretchers. And I've looked over, and the leader, you know, in a horrible way, burnt to a crisp, was laying on one of the stretchers. So I had to ask one of the officers to come over with me, and we had to move that body off the stretcher to make room for someone else who was going to survive. And, you know, for me, I just remember that, the smell of burning hairs, and, you know, I smell burning hairs. It still brings back that memory. So that was definitely a pretty hardcore moment. We had another mass casualty incident as well, but that was probably, this was more full on.
Yeah. And so it's interesting you say at no stage during that you were scared. There was, for you, just an automatic reaction. You just bounce into it.
Yeah, definitely. Look, training kicks in and you just do your job. Yeah. Even afterwards, you don't really think about it. I didn't really think about it. I didn't dwell on it. I'm like, oh, shit, that just happened, you know. So at the time, it was just move on.
Yeah.
Went on to the daily task the next day. Didn't spare it a thought.
It becomes almost a cliche to a lot of people, and I don't think people actually understand when you say the training kicks in. My experiences are very different to yours, and I don't compare them in any way. And maybe this is that example you gave before of we all say that someone else has done it harder than us. But that really resonates with me, that idea that the training just kicks in. You just crack on. And the fear thing, I get asked that a lot myself, and it's, I never felt scared. At times I felt more comfortable. I still sit in the commander seat of a Bushmaster and feel more comfortable than the driver's seat of a car back home, because that's my home. I know where I am in that position. And but what you're saying there about, so IED goes off, bang, there's a huge amount of unknowns, there's a huge amount of things going on, there is information overload for everyone involved, and for you the training kicked in and you start doing your job as a CFA. And this is, so you're a rifleman deployed overseas, you're a PMV driver, you're a SIG, and you're a CFA. All of those at different times would have had equal standing, or equally important.
Definitely. Look, I would say for me, I wasn't over there to be a CFA.
Yeah.
Like, I was not over there to be a CFA. That was just a skill I picked up. Like we said before, to get on the deployment, if I went over as a CFA, that'd be fine. So I originally wasn't over as a CFA, but, you know, when I come round the corner to the medics sort of area, and there was that many bodies, you know, I just put my gun off to the side and just jumped in, because there wasn't enough hands on deck. So I just took that role.
Yeah. And at the time, no dramas with it. You were fine. Good to go.
Yeah, good to go. Yeah, definitely. So the second incident, so look, had a really good mate who was a bombardier. He called all the bombs in on where he needed to. So, yeah, basically, we're best mates during our pre-deployment. We end up, bunking in the same room together. So he's directly across the bunk for me. So we would have spent a good, again, I'm not good with dates, a good maybe 5 or 6 months together inside that FOB.
Yeah.
Also traveling around together. So look, every single day and night, I sort of seen him. He was the bunk across from me. And I remember one day they needed another, someone of my mate's description over at the base, over the road where shit was really bad. And look, that was only a stone throw away. It was probably only 2 kilometres away, directly over a mountain. It was probably one of the most IED roads and IED places over there. They were just everywhere. And I remember in particularly had to drive with the convoy, so driving a Bushmaster, and it was about 2 weeks in. He'd been over there for about 2 weeks. And I remember going over there and, we got up on one of the, on top of one of the buildings and, we were sharing a Coke the night before this incident took place. And I just remember him saying to me, like, Jeb, I've got this horrible feeling that something bad's going to happen, and, as mates do. And I'll never forget the words I said to him. I said, mate, you'll be fine. You'll be home. You'll be home back at our base very soon. You'll be home. You'll be back before you know it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So the next day they went out for a patrol. I was still at their base. And, unfortunately, he tripped a IED that day. So, look, lost his leg, lost some of his hand.
Yeah.
I remember it coming over the radio, and I remember them saying who it was. And it just, it was just this horrible feeling. You thought, well, I can't really do nothing. I can't do nothing here. You felt helpless.
Yeah.
And it was the worst feeling knowing that you couldn't physically go out there and do anything. They were only a couple kilometres from the base, but a couple kilometres in those areas is a long way. So basically, we're waiting for a helicopter to come, and then they said they're going to try and bring him back, and then they're like, all right, get the medic so I could. Sorry, language.
You can swear.
Get the medic stuff ready to go. And I remember going to the medic's room, and the door was locked, so I ended up kicking that in, and we had everything ready to go. And look, in the end, we were lucky. Well, my friend was lucky; he got choppered out. And yeah, look, he did survive, which was really good. I remember the boys come back from patrol, and they weren't in good shape either. Obviously, they were covered in their mate's blood, so that was hard for them. And look, it was just a really hard incident. And that incident, just knowing the night beforehand, I just reassured him, saying, that you'll be back to our base before you know it, basically. So, look, for me, there was a feeling of guilt that I had told him that. And then the next day that had sort of happened and transpired. And yeah, look, that was really confronting.
So you were there when the mist or the 9-liner came through? You heard
I could hear it all on the radio. Yep, I could hear it all on the radio, everything that was going on.
For you, that must have been just an immense moment.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you remember what his injuries were and what they were saying at the time?
Look, it's still a bit of the blur. I'm probably fuzzy because a lot of this stuff, sometimes my mind probably tries to block it out.
Yeah.
but yeah, look, he lost, lost one of his legs and some of his hand. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's no happy endings to any of this sort of stuff, but just I suppose for the people who are watching the bloke we're talking about, can you give us a bit of an update on what he's doing nowadays and how he's doing?
Yeah. Well, he's doing really well. He's managed his injury very well. Obviously, like the rest of us, he would. He still has his bad days, but we all do. He's doing a lot better. And look, he's doing good.
One of the things we don't talk about, perhaps enough, because we're not doctors and we don't understand the medical science behind it, but when you hit an IED, when you hit a mine, when you get shot, it doesn't tend to be a clean injury. It doesn't tend to be something that, okay, he's lost his leg, well, the rest of him's fine. That is a huge amount of shock. That is a huge amount of, there's a power behind an IED blast that is then transferred through that person's body. And losing the leg isn't the only injury. Losing, like you said, that bit of the hand isn't the only injury. It affects him immensely. I mean, there's the potential for traumatic brain injuries to the bloke who was standing next to him, who looks fine. But he receives a big concussion punch to the face, and everyone gets affected by it. That IED blast also affects you, even though you're a couple of Ks away at the time. There's a huge blow.
Oh, we heard it. Yep, we heard it. Yep.
Yeah. But that's one of the things, and I don't want to. I'm not hijacking this, but I remember watching IED blast, especially in Baghdad, and you'd watch a rocket blast or an IED blast, and there was the initial bang, and then it's like, I remember the first time I saw it, and I just thought, this isn't real, as I watched this shockwave just run across the ground towards us, and then you get hit by this shockwave, and that first IED blast, we would have been a couple of Ks away, and it was like in a movie, and I just thought, this isn't real. This is exactly what it looks like in films. And that concussion, that shockwave, in your case, I mean, these are the mental health issues that carried along with it. It didn't hit you at the time, but it hits you a couple of days later, or a couple of years later.
For me it was years. Yep, definitely. Yeah. I suppose something happened about 3 weeks later, and it was one of my friends that went through that incident. The person filling his role.
Yep.
3 weeks later, and I won't forget this either. 3 weeks later, we were sitting at our base and he's about to go out on patrol, and he goes to me, Jeb, I feel like something really bad's going to happen to me. I go, mate, just shut up. I touched the wood, and I told him, and he touched all the wood that we had available, mate. I just thought, wow, not again.
Not again, yeah. He's jinxed himself. Look,
but going back to IEDs, like not many people know, but the Afghans over there were really, really smart.
Yeah.
They were really smart with their IEDs. What they would used to do is they used to put a tire tube over their IEDs. So basically, if a kid ran over it or an Afghani ran over it, well, the tire won't compress.
Yeah.
But you get an Australian soldier that with their gear on weighs over 100 kilos, boom.
Yeah. All those places, the complexity and the brutality of the way those IEDs were laid, it isn't just a landmine. It isn't just a little thing that's on a path in front of you. It's in the trees. It's in the aqueduct that you're walking along. It's in the wall next to you. The pressure plate may be on the ground, but the IED is somewhere else so that it has mass effect. And I mean, the luck, I think, and I don't know about you, but for me, I look back on my mates who've hit stuff like that, and you just look at the luck of it. So much of it, they just got away with it through pure arse. It's just, as old mates step on the pressure plate, someone goes to scratch their ear, and that big chunk of steel comes past their head. And the number of stories you hear about that stuff is it blows you away.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Jeb Summers, really appreciate your time so far, and we'll be back and carry on with what you're doing now and what you're doing in the future. Thanks, mate.
Yeah, perfect, Eamon. Sounds good, mate.